Sumandeep Kaur, PhD Research Scholar, Department of Physics, MRS PTU Bathinda.
आवाज ही नहीं सुनी आंदी जल्दी जल्दी ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਔਨ ਕਰਿਓ
Welcome you all for the second day of ATL FTP on the topic novel materials and their applications. Session 1 for the second day of FTP being addressed by Dr. Ravi Bhatia, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics, GJU, Hisar. Dr. Ravi Bhatia was awarded with Inspired Faculty Award by DST. He also worked as an Inspired Faculty at Punjab University, Chandigarh. Dr. Ravi Bhatia earned doctorate degree from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He worked as postdoctoral fellow at INST Mohali, University of South Korea, and National University of Singapore. Dr. Ravi Bhatia published more than 40 international scientific articles in reputed journals. Now for this session 1 of second day of FTP, Dr. Ravi Bhatia is going to share and guide us on the topic carbon nanotubes. I welcome Dr. Ravi Bhatia to guide us on the topic carbon nanotubes. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much. I would first like to express my regards to the Honorable Vice Chancellor of your university, who has been guiding you for organizing this event. And I'm highly thankful to the organizing committee and coordinator and coordinators for the organization of such a lovely event. So let me share my screen, and I would like to express my sincere regards to the three organizations which were involved in the organization of this particular event called AICTE Training and Learning Faculty Development Program on theme Novel Materials and Applications. I am going to talk about some novel experimental observations in the multi-wall carbon nanotube systems. And this is going to be an experimental presentation. I will not talk about anything regarding the theoretical aspects of this material. So let me give you the outline of the talk. I would first like to talk about synthesis methods for the production of multi-wall carbon nanotubes and its characterization, because characterizing these nanomaterials is very, very important before we go for any kind of experimentation. Thereafter, I will talk about the composite fabrication with using the filler material, MWCNT being the filler material, and its preparation, characterization, and the interesting results which I will present on the charge transport near and well above the percolation threshold. I will also mention few points regarding the magnetic response. Finally, which your theme is the novel materials and its application. One of the applications we have worked on, that is field emission work, and then I will summarize the whole talk. So the basic facts regarding the carbon nanotubes are presented here. The most important part is the sp2 hybridization in this material, due to which you have a excess of pi electrons, which give rise to the highest level of electronic properties. These can be actually of two types, mainly single wall and multi-wall. I will be categorically talking only about the multi-wall carbon nanotubes, as I have interest in this particular material right from my PhD. However, single wall carbon nanotubes are of three types generally, and it is based on its chiral vector. It can be metallic, it can be semiconducting, and why these CNTs are so special, I have listed only 3 properties here because my further talk will be regarding these 3 important things: the electronic properties, low density, and high aspect ratio. You can synthesize carbon nanotube in a variety of ways: arc discharge, laser ablation, and chemical vapor deposition. I will restrict myself to the chemical vapor deposition. However, the first experiment which caused the discovery of carbon nanotube was arc discharge, and Sumio Ijima in 1991 first presented the work related to the carbon nanotube. These 2 approaches which I am talking about, arc discharge and laser ablation, involve very high temperature, 2000 to 3000 degrees C. So the chemical vapor deposition technique is considered to be a much better and high yield. You can have high yield of the sample. So possible applications are listed here, and among these CNT flow meter, if you look at it, this was first published by Professor A.K. Sood at Department of Physics, Indian Institute of Science at Bangalore. But I will not talk about this particular thing. I just need to mention what Indian scientists have contributed with in this particular topic, carbon nanotubes. However, I will give you some insights of reinforcing material in the form of reinforcing material, that is nothing but the filler material to be used in a fabrication of composite. So before I talk about anything, I must explain the fundamental results are very important before you go for any application. So my presentation will basically be based upon the experimental and fundamental research on carbon nanotubes. Synthesis of carbon nanotube by CVD. Generally, a tube furnace is required which can operate up to 1000 degrees C. As I mentioned, the other 2 arc discharge and laser ablation methods involve very high temperature of the order of 3000 degrees C. Here you have 1000 degrees C is enough to produce carbon nanotube. Actually, the range which is required to produce, range of temperature required to produce CNT with CVD is below 1000 degrees C. Actually, 400 to 900 degrees, it can be grown. Second thing is reaction tube is required, which is generally made up of quartz, and then you require a mixture of carbon source and its catalyst. Many scientists have worked on this synthesis using carrier gas flow. Carrier gas is generally chosen as argon or nitrogen because they provide inert atmosphere within the reaction tube. All 3 kinds of states of matter have been applied for the production of carbon nanotubes. It is gaseous, liquid, or organometallic compound. Acetylene, methane, ethane, these are the gaseous counterparts for the production of carbon nanotubes. Benzene, tetrahydrofuran, hexane, phenol, all these organic material have been used for the production of carbon nanotubes, and solid material organometallic compounds such as ferrocene, nickelocene, cobaltocene, and camphor. But in the case of organometallic compound, you need not have another catalyst in the chamber. But while using camphor for the production of carbon nanotube, generally iron, cobalt, and nickel are used as catalyst. And catalyst preparation, sometimes the carbon nanotubes are grown in a 2 process method. In the first, the catalyst is prepared using sputtering or thermal evaporation, and then that substrate is placed inside the reaction tube having a facility of reaching to 1000 degrees C and just provide a carbon source there, and carbon nanotubes can be grown. So the first complexity in this system is to have a two-step process of the carbon nanotube production. So one can remove this by using a single source, for example, ferrocene or nicolosin or cobaltocene, because it itself provides both carbon source and catalyst. But in this case, the qualities of carbon nanotube is compromised. I will show some SEMs. Before that, I must quote this particular paper in Journal of Physics Chem B, appeared in 2006. There are a number of parameters which are controlled here in the cross-sectional view of CVD reactor. You require, in this case, one requires a MFC, mass flow controller, and temperature controller. There are a number of things which are involved in this particular setup, which needs to be simplified, and the result, they have got this carbon nanotube in the on the left corner. One can see the carbon nanotubes which are clearly entangled. There is no alignment whatsoever it is. So we chose to replace this method while doing the experimentation with the production of carbon nanotube in our lab. So we made it very simple. We just need to have a furnace here, which is capable of reaching 900 to 1000 degrees C, and we require a quartz tube which can be connected to a bladder and valve which collects all the gases after the reaction. So it is a very simple method which can be utilized for the mass production of multi-wall carbon nanotubes. Here we have used toluene and ferrocene mixture, and just few times if you optimize these things, you can get very high quality carbon nanotubes from this particular setup. And this setup is hardly 20,000 rupees when it was built first in our lab. That was in 2008, and we produced 2 papers out of this on the synthesis. Here are the pictorial representation of carbon nanotubes in the form of SEM micrographs. In the figure A, one can see very finely aligned carbon nanotubes with no traces of amorphous carbon or any other impurity whatsoever it is. The purpose of showing this first figure A to the audience is to assure that the carbon nanotubes are produced with no extra impurity. Generally, in the production of multi-wall carbon nanotubes using CVD, people get amorphous carbon into it, and there are other impurities. They can arise from the interaction between the catalyst and carbon source. However, we found very nice forests of carbon nanotube, big flakes. Figure B and C shows very nice oriented carbon nanotubes. However, when we carried out an EDEX, we found that there is iron present in the carbon nanotube which cannot be seen in this SEM micrographs. So I was talking about the cost effectiveness of this particular technique, that we developed a setup having capability of producing multi-wall carbon nanotube of this level with no carrier gas at all. So you just need a mixture of ferrocene and toluene. I have given you the other names of other organic carbon sources which can be used for the production of carbon nanotubes. So once you have assured that the carbon nanotubes you have produced are of high quality, you can do certain experimentation. So here is a first message that I want to give. Until you have the satisfaction in the production of your sample, don't go for the further experimentation, because it will not give you the justified results from the sample. For example, I will show in later stages that people have worked in the low temperature charge transport properties of multi-wall carbon nanotube, and they have not presented a true picture of what they can give rise to. The electronic properties of carbon nanotubes have been considered to be very excellent. It should present metallic behavior, but people have observed variable range Hoping conduction, which shows the exponential decay of conductivity with respect to the temperature. Anyways, then I just told you that once we prepare a sample, we must thoroughly characterize it first. So in the same sequence, we carried out HRTM and TM measurement. I told the IDEX gave us a clue that there is iron present in the carbon nanotubes, which cannot be seen through SCM micrography, SCM microscope. So we need to do this characterization using TEM and HRTM. Clearly, there is a black particle present in this figure A, which was further seen using HRTM, high resolution transmission electron microscopy, and one can see first thing that there is the black particle present within the carbon nanotube or iron nanoparticle. I apologize for not showing you the XRD of this sample, in which clearly iron peak appears, because I thought it is it is going to be a 2-hour program, a 2-hour lecture, so I thought we cannot provide all the details. However, this particular HRTM provides an estimate to the diameter of these tubes, which lies in the range of 50 to 80 nanometers. That's what now I will be talking about charge transport, and it is going to be a low temperature charge transport property. Low temperature means we are going to decrease the temperature from 300 Kelvin to something like 4.2 Kelvin, which can be achieved by liquid helium. So this was the interesting paper that appeared in Journal of Applied Physics in 1998, where they have claimed to have seen variable range Hoping conduction in multi-wall carbon nanotubes, but as long as, to the best of my knowledge, in fact, carbon nanotube must show a better transport than this one, which is shown by this work, Yoshida and Obiro. Here you can see when H is 0, H represents the magnetic field. There is a graph shown between 1 upon T power minus T power 1 by 4. This is a dependence of 3D VRH. VRH is generally categorized, VRH is generally expressed in this mathematical expression, where the conductivity decreases exponentially with temperature. And again, I would like to stress upon the conductivity decreases exponentially with temperature as one goes from 300 Kelvin to 4.2 Kelvin. So this does not provide us the true picture of the electronic properties of carbon nanotubes, because we have heard about it many a times that multi-wall carbon nanotube should represent a metallic transport rather than a VRH transport. So it was this paper was the basis of the next work which we carried out. We prepared two types of samples. One was aligned sample of carbon nanotube, and other is randomized sample, just to look at the inter-tube transport between the within the sample. So whether the alignment, whether the randomization, does they really affect the transport properties or not? So I would like you to appreciate the inset of this image, which is very low magnification image representing the carbon nanotube mat, over which one can put 4 leads to carry out the transport property measurement. This is a little bit, busy slide. Sorry for that, but very interesting observations can be seen here. Start from this figure on the right. On the right top, resistance is presented as a function of temperature from 300 Kelvin to 1.4 Kelvin. This is the facility we have in ISC Bangalore, where liquid helium plant is available, and these experimentation can be done. Just to compare the two types of CNTs which were under examination, aligned and random, both samples exhibit almost the same transport property. Just a little thermal activation is observed in randomized sample. However, this particular result shows that it cannot show the VRH conduction. The sample under study is showing a metallic behavior, and it follows the equation sigma as a function of T, sigma naught mt power half BTP by 2, where the first term is Drude term, second term is electron-electron interaction, and third is weak localization. So the rise in resistance with the lowering temperature is caused by these two terms, that is electron-electron interaction and weak localization. I will briefly explain weak localization. At sufficiently low temperature, for example, 1.4 to 10 Kelvin, there is a bump in the, there is a little rapid enhancement in the resistance, which occurs because of the constructive interference of the partial electron waves. And when this particular constructive interference is broken or destroyed by either magnetic field or temperature, it shows positive MC and negative MR. I would just try to explain how it is metallic. The reduced activation energy is a term introduced by Jabrowski in 1985, in which if the conductivity versus temperature is converted in the terms of reduced activation energy by dln sigma by dln T, if you plot this W versus T on a log plot, metallic situation shows that W should have a positive temperature coefficient, and if it is insulating, that means there is a large change in the resistance from 300 Kelvin to 1.5 Kelvin. It shows insulating behavior, and the metal insulator boundary is seen when W versus T on the log plot is independent of temperature, that is the critical regime. So just by comparing the result with this particular graph, one can easily say the sample conductivity lies in the metallic regime, where the two important terms are occurring, the electron-electron interaction and weak localization. However, we need not go in these details. The important message here is the VRH conduction, which is the exponential decay of conductivity with temperature, is not observed in this sample. One can ask a question, why so? The speculative answer can be given because we have not seen the samples used by the Yoshida group. It is found that the amorphous carbon give rise to VRH conduction because of its quasi zero-dimensional properties. Here the carbon nanotube presents its quasi one-dimensional transport properties. So I believe that that result is correct, but it is not a very good sample that they have chosen to study the charge transport at low temperature in the multi-valve carbon nanotubes. Here there is a little bit more description given about the T power half dependence and T power 3/4 dependence. T power half dependence shows the electron-electron interaction contribution, and 3/4 dependence shows the weak localization. The only point here is, here the aligned carbon nanotube sample, the ranges are different. Here 1.4 Kelvin to 4 Kelvin and the 4 Kelvin to 20 Kelvin. However, in the case of randomized sample, it is 1.4 Kelvin to 8 Kelvin. That means the little wider range happens for the randomized samples, but more or less both samples present the similar transport properties. It is very, very important in low temperature charge transport that one should corroborate the results from conductivity versus temperature with the magnetoconductance or magnetoresistance. Here one can see the two samples represent almost a similar behavior with the magnetic field at various temperatures below 20 Kelvin. But here you see there is a clear indication that there are two competing effects. Weak localization causes the positive magnetoresistance conductance, and electron-electron interaction contributes to the negative magnetoconductance, but more or less still the same result. However, there is a change in the diffusive properties of the charge carriers. In the aligned sample, it is much smaller than in the case of random sample. So I would just summarize this part that if the multi-valve carbon nanotube sample is taken in aligned or randomized state, both are going to give almost the similar behavior, and it lies in the metallic regime, and it does not follow the VRH conduction clearly. Magnetoconductance data also in the agreement of this particular statement that electron-electron interaction and weak localization in the carbon nanotube are present, and the metallic behavior is observed in the two samples. The diffusion of the charge carriers are also observed. In the case of random sample, it is a little bit more than the aligned sample. So let us now just shift to the charge transport in composites. Composites can be prepared by many techniques. For example, you have a polymer solution, you make a dispersive solution of CNT, mix them together, go for some ultrasonication. Ultrasonication can be the best way to disperse carbon nanotubes in a polymer. There are very important problems which should be tackled before one say that I have prepared a better sample. First is to have the homogeneous distribution of carbon nanotube within the polymer. Second, without using any surfactant, one can achieve this homogeneous dispersion or not, because it is well known that carbon nanotube gets agglomerated if left unsonicated, and this agglomeration causes adverse effects on the charge transport properties of carbon nanotube based composite. For example, if somebody has prepared a very good sample, the electrical properties of these composite should be improved by the addition of filler. For example, the electrical properties of composites follow the percolation theory, and percolation equation is given as this. Sigma represents the conductivity, P represents the weight fraction or weight percentage of the filler material, For example, if one wants to prepare a 5 weight percent composite sample, 100 mg of the polymer and 5 mg of CNT, it is a rough estimate. Actually, the equation is something else, where we have to take care of the masses of the polymer, masses of the CNTs, and then you divide the mass of filler divided by the combination of the polymer and filler material gives rise to the exact measurement of the weight percent. So sigma depends upon P such that when it reaches Pc, the conductivity starts shooting up abruptly. So the polymer composite with a filler material shows a percolative behavior. I will show you in the next slide what does it mean by percolative behavior.
Today you will do the lesson of
Hello. Basically, two types of conduction mechanisms have been proposed till date. Variable range hopping follows the same formula which I showed you earlier, and fluctuation induced tunneling given by Ping Sheng in 1978 follows this particular expression. Please note that both are exponential model, but here there are two other terms involved, T1 and T0, which are corresponding to the potential barriers to be crossed by the charge carrier to have a better transport. And in this case, there is T0, it is called characteristic temperature, which depends upon the density of states near the Fermi level. So, yeah, this is a very, interesting slide. I would like to spend a few minutes over it. Previously, traditional filler materials were of spherical shape, for example, carbon particle or metal particle. So in that case, to achieve a percolation means the interconnectivity of these fillers within the polymer, which gives rise to room temperature finite conductivity. So while previously 1960 or so, there is a very interesting paper by Karamona. The percolation threshold goes to 16 weight percent. That means if you have a composite of 100 mg of polymer is being used and 16 mg of that particular particles are required to make a percolative path. However, in the case of quasi one-dimensional filler material, the situation is like this. Below percolation threshold, there is hardly any connectivity between these thread-like particles, and at the percolation, they just get connected and they are homogeneously distributed. This is the most important condition to make a high-quality composite sample. And above the percolation, when you have already achieved a percolation, it is going to saturate here. For example, the F, please look at the F graph. As the MWCNT loading is increasing, there is an abrupt change of conductivity or increase of conductivity right here. So this region is called the percolation threshold region, where this part is called the saturation region. So let me again explain very specifically why we are interested in these two points, where the percolation appears, and after the percolation, when you have a large, very high filler loading into the composite, because at this position, that percolation threshold, the finite room temperature conductivity is achieved, but does it sustain at the low temperature or not? It is a very interesting assumption that once you have achieved a percolation, that means the connectivity between the filler material, it should be sustained, at least in the case of carbon nanotubes, because they have quasi one-dimensional nature as their physical parameter. and after it, if you have higher loading, it should represent some, Fermi gas kind of behavior. Okay, so I would spend a little time on this slide, which is again the motivation for the further work which is to be presented here. Kim et al. Prepared so many samples from 0.4 weight% to 30 weight%. Here, actually, the 0.4 weight% sample presents the percolation threshold, and it is understandable that as the temperature is lowered down from 300 Kelvin to around 1 Kelvin, there should be an exponential decay of conductivity. This is understood very nicely. There is no problem with this, but still it leaves a question. Then what is the use of multi-wall carbon nanotube in making composites if its intrinsic properties are not being taken care of? So this is the motivation for us to carry out further work. I will just take another, if you have a 30 weight% sample, that means you have added 30% of CNTs by weight into a composite. It should show metallic behavior. For example, I have presented another work in which aligned and randomized sample was taken, and we studied its charge transport, which comes out to be metallic, and magnetoconductance also corroborate with it that the results are authentic and there is no artifact in the result. But here the questions are posed: if the carbon nanotubes are used for the synthesis of composite, and the same composite is being studied using the low temperature transport, this is going to be a question mark because of the interesting property that carbon nanotube is being quoted always for, that it has high electrical conductivity, high electrical mobility, and 1D nature of the carbon nanotube also helps in transport of the charge at the low temperature. So we were motivated to prepare samples for this, to approve or disapprove this study, or we prepared. Before that, I will again explain the same concept using reduced activation energy. Here, the reduced activation energy, when it is increasing, in the case of 0.4 weight% sample, that means near the percolation threshold, it is acceptable. There is no problem with it, because you might have a less aspect ratio carbon nanotubes. While preparing the carbon nanotube composite, there could be non-homogeneous distribution of CNTs, which may cause such increase in activation energy with reduction of temperature. But the samples of 20 and 30 weight% exhibiting the similar behavior is, questionable. That the true picture from the addition of multi-wall carbon nanotubes into the composite should appear. It should reflect that CNTs are being missed. But here again, the problem is, I believe that the aspect ratio of the material has been very low, or probably homogeneous distribution is not attained, or there could be defects in the carbon nanotubes which have been used to prepare these samples. So these two things clearly give a motivation that one should try to reassess the results obtained in this work. This is a physical review paper, and physical review one cannot question. This is a very highly reputed journal in the condensed matter physics. So we prepared our samples right from 0.4 weight%. However, I have presented the SCM images of 1, 3, 5, 7, and 15 weight%, where you can see the white threads are representing carbon nanotubes, where the black portion represents the polymer, and polymer chosen here is polystyrene, and polystyrene, toluene and CNTs were mixed together to prepare the composite. We have assured the high degree of dispersion before carrying out any experiment. The cross-sectional image of this particular sample shows that the thickness of the sample lies around 60 micron, which is not very, thick. So one can put these samples for the low temperature charge transport. So here there are few interesting points regarding percolating system. At the percolation threshold, as I said, the connectivity is achieved between the fillers. But does that connectivity remain intact at the 4.2 Kelvin temperature or not? If it does not, you will see a VRH conduction, that is the exponential decay of conductivity with the temperature going from 300 Kelvin to 1.4 Kelvin. If the connectivity retains, it should show a metallic behavior, and the way we thought, we saw the similar result. The black curve here is the sample which we prepared, and we have tried to compare it with other published work, and it is clearly observable that the conductivity is weakly dependent upon temperature from 300 Kelvin to 1.4 Kelvin. In this case, however, when other samples are being compared, for example, the first sample belonged to our laboratory, multi-wall carbon nanotube with polystyrene, multi-wall carbon nanotube with PMMA, which I showed you previously. I have taken the same data here and tried to compare it with our data. So there is a pronounced temperature dependence is observed in these similar samples, and it has been it can be considered a very rare observation that near the percolation threshold one gets a weak temperature dependence of conductivity in a very wide range of temperature, that is 300 Kelvin to 1.4 Kelvin. So for the last 40-50 years, when the polymer composite came into the trend, nobody has observed this behavior. We could publish it in applied physics letters. So further, to check whether there can be any artifact in the result, we again plotted the same conductivity in the terms of reduced activation energy versus temperature on a log-log plot. Our sample shows that its conductivity lies near the metal insulator boundary, whereas all other samples shows an increase of activation energy with the reduction of temperature. So further, we need to further check it whether there could be any artifact. We had to study the AC conductivity of the sample at various temperatures. Now the important part here is all these curves at various temperatures are almost merging into one, which shows that it is a metallic sample, because the AC electrical conductivity does not change at temperatures with the frequency. So this is another check we carried out to validate the result. Finally, as I earlier said, that once you go for a low temperature transport studies, with the conductivity versus temperature, you must carry out a magnetoresistance study also, so that you can corroborate the two results and find out whether there is no artifact in the result. MWCNT, and this red curve shows the magnetoconductance of MWCNT. That means all these curves are in the same scenario, that is showing positive magnetoconductance, that is negative magnetoresistance, it means that the inherent there is a very important thing, that the properties of multi-wall carbon nanotubes are still retained within the composite material. Hence, the results are validated, and this is finally we can look at it again in the terms of the tabulated values. For example, the room temperature conductivity here of this particular sample, which is presented in the previous slides, are same with our conductivity, room temperature conductivity, and there both are same. Both achieve the percolation threshold at the same level, but the transport model for them is VRH or FIT, and for us it is power law behavior. So this is a significant study which shows that the quality of multi-wall carbon nanotube matters, and the homogeneous distribution of CNT matters, and the material processing as a whole is a very big area of research. So until you have showed the sample qualities in terms of its characterization, one should not go for the further measurement, because it will give rise to the confusion, and it needs to be understood that we must present the true picture of a particular material through our experimentation. So the important feature of this work was a very weak temperature dependence shown near the percolation threshold, indicates towards the metallic behavior, which was further verified by WT graph, or it was also verified by magnetoconductance and frequency dependent conductivity. So this particular work has both fundamental significance and application point of view significance. What is that? The fundamental part is one can prepare multi-wall carbon nanotube composite sample such that the near the percolation threshold nanoscale connectivity can be sustained. It means it means that with the inclusion of very small amount of CNT, for example 0.48%, can give rise to the conductivity in the whole composite. So the application point of view says that you just can use these materials in the aeronautic industry, electromagnetic shielding, and field emission devices. Okay, so I previously showed you a percolation plot in which I said the near percolation point is very important, and well above the percolation point is very, very important. So here the SCM image is shown, it is not very clear. However, the quasi one-dimensional nature of carbon nanotube can be observed because the magnification is not very high, just to show that the sample is same at all the places. For example, there is no agglomeration. Everywhere CNTs are dispersed homogeneously. So this sample was prepared in the connection to the earlier work by Kim et al. That was published in PRB, where we wanted to check or compare with the results shown by them. So this work was carried out at France Toulouse in the presence of 50 Tesla of magnetic field, but that I will show you later. Let me first explain the graph here. The black curve here shows that the conductivity at 100 Kelvin goes to 4 Siemens per centimeter, around 1 or 2 Kelvin. Here the change in the resistivity, sigma R represents the resistivity ratio. Resistivity ratio of sigma R in our case it is less than 2. That means the conductivity does not even decrease by a factor of 2 here. However, the other work which we compared, for them in a sample of 20 weight percent, the conductivity drops to 500 times with the reference to the conductivity at 300 Kelvin. So this is showing a very wrong picture of this work, that multi-wall carbon nanotube composites with 20 weight percent should show this result. It creates confusion and doubts. For example, it is clearly visible that if your carbon nanotube quality is good, they have lesser defect density, they are mixed or dispersed in the composite homogeneously, one should get this kind of result. So this was another check on that work, and we could publish it in Carbon. Here I will again explain the WT graph of the 28% sample of PRB. You see the W increases with the decrease in temperature for a sample of 28%. That shows that it is in insulating regime. However, our sample, the conductivity lies in the metal insulator boundary, or one can say it is a critical regime. For explaining this data, this work, we need to, propose a phenomenological model by ourselves, that this power law behavior should have a delocalization and a localization length and barrier width. I will not go into the details, but explain that with the application of magnetic field from 4, 10, and 25 Tesla, the localization length is increasing, which indicates that this field is capable to delocalize the charge carrier in a sample of 15 weight percent MWCNT polystyrene composite. So these two things are very important, that there is a correlation between localization length and the magnetic field. On the left top corner, the resistance variation with magnetic field at various temperatures has been plotted. You can see that resistance at 0 Tesla, with the application of magnetic field, the resistance is decreasing. That means it is a negative MR study. Negative MR, that means it is a positive MC. But the important feature here is, one, when we converted this graph into the magnetoresistance, there is an entanglement between the temperature and the magnetic field. What is the meaning of entanglement? In general, at the lowest temperature, the magnetoresistance should be maximum, because all the phonones are freezed out, are frozen. So at the highest temperature, it should be the least magnetoresistance. So this particular graph does not present anything. So we had to, convert these graphs in this particular figure on my left down corner. So there is some feature which can be understood here. At a 1 Tesla, 4 Tesla, 5 Tesla, and up to 50 Tesla, we took out all the points and presented in this manner, where the temperature is on the x-axis. Now the situation gets a little clearer with the plot here, that at the lowest magnetic field, there is hardly any change in the magnetoresistance. As you go to 4 Tesla and 50 Tesla, there is a same trend at all temperatures. So this gives rise to the feeling that there is a magnetic field induced delocalization from 8 Kelvin to 20 Kelvin, which is having a different slope than the next region. So I still don't want to go in details of this but I want to just say one line that at the lowest temperature, you should see maximum negative MR. At the highest temperature, one should see the lowest MR. But why, when we plot in terms of magnetoresistance, it does not present a trend with the respect of temperature and magnetic field, which can be understood by plotting the whole data in this manner. This is presented in carbon, so not much to be explained here because it is a little tricky to understand this in the first go. So I will just stop here with this particular thing, and the analysis part says that 15% CNT sample shows weak temperature dependence, which is obvious because at the percolation threshold at the 0.48% we saw the weak temperature dependence. It should be seen at 15% as well. And the most important statement here is the ultra high magnetic field conductivity is increasing, which is an indicative of delocalization of carrier. This particular piece of work is, not very easy to explain and understand because there is no model that allows us the explanation of the results obtained in this work. So we expect in a couple of years or by 2025 or something, people will try to make some model to explain this work, because I just told in the beginning the theoretical modeling. I have not gone forever this theoretical modeling. If one takes this work as a motivation, you can actually propose a model which will be helpful in understanding the similar works at higher magnetic fields. So we have come to the halfway. Before I go to this particular part, if somebody has any queries, one can ask, or we should go to the last and we can look for the questions from the audience. Please guide me. Are we good? We can continue.
Yes, sir, please. We
Okay.
have sufficient time till 11:30.
Okay. So we had observed the encapsulation of iron nanoparticle in terms of nanoroll in the carbon nanotubes. We use the same carbon nanotubes for the fabrication of polymer composites, and we try to assess the magnetic properties of this system. Before we go to the measurement part of it, CNTs show a diamagnetic susceptibility which is anisotropic in nature when there is no catalytic particle within it, because it is carbon material. Carbon should show a diamagnetic susceptibility. When you have CNT with iron, cobalt, or nickel, there it gives a very interesting and fantastic system that oxidation and aggregation both are taken care of. Generally, the magnetic particles, if they are not capped with any other reagent, they get oxidation, oxidated and agglomerated. So these two problems are solved in the case when the encapsulation is happening within the CNTs. Now the same CNTs, if they are mixed with a polymer and distributed homogeneously, there could be interesting features which we will see whether we get it right or not. So hysteresis loops were measured. One can say only hysteresis loops. Why? Because the size of the iron nanoparticle in terms of a nanoroll is big enough to look for its super paramagnetic properties by ZFC or FC measurements. So we had to go for only MH loop measurements. So we had, done a very systematic study on this particular sample. We studied the bulk sample of a multi-wall carbon nanotube, and then we went to 7 weight percent sample, 1 weight percent sample, 0.5, 0.33, 0.2, and 0.1. So we studied almost 7 samples for its magnetic properties. Why? Because there was a very interesting feature that was observed, which probably cannot be seen in this graph, which needs to be tabulated. I will go to the table and explain. Before that, one can notice there are some changes at 0.1% and 0.2% and 0.3%. This is in agreement with the magnetic properties that if you have a bulk particle, the EMU, the magnetization values are higher, lower, even lower, and the least in the case of 0.1% sample. And this part, which is after the saturation, this is from the diamagnetic contribution from composite polymer as well as CNT. So this thinning of the loop is interesting, and there is a wavy nature in the case of 0.2 and 0.33 sample. So I will just go to the next slide and first show you the table, which is very interesting. So just look at the temperature 10, 150, and 300, and the corrosivity values. We started with Fe MWCNT. We found out that at 300 Kelvin, the corrosivity shows 488, Orested 1301, and 2289. This is very well understood. The corrosivity must increase because the ordering happens at the lower temperatures. Now, if we just go to the vertical points, 7 weight percent shows even higher corrosivity. 1 weight percent sample shows the highest corrosivity, and 0.5 weight percent sample and 0.1, they are going to the lower values of corrosivity. What is the reason of this non-monotonic behavior of corrosivity with respect to the loading of multi-wall carbon nanotube in the composites? I will again explain what is the important feature here. At all the temperatures, 10, 150, and 300 Kelvin, one can see that the values of corrosivity are highest in the case of 1 weight percent sample, and below and above they are decreasing. Here also I must say that there is no theoretical model existing which can explain this particular result. So we try to speculatively provide some answer, because the reviewer always asks the answer, what is the reason for this particular behavior? So I will start from high to low or low to high. It's immaterial. Let's start from high. So these black elongated particles represent iron nanoparticle, and the other part is polymer or CNT, because CNT alone shows diamagnetic nature, polymer alone shows diamagnetic nature. Only the MH loop appears because of ferromagnetic iron particle. Now, since it is a non-monotonic behavior of corrosivity, there has to be at least two competing interactions. One of them should tend to increase the corrosivity, and the other one is decreasing. What are these two? So we speculatively provided an answer that probably the dipolar interaction and exchange interaction are present, and they vary, their effect vary with respect to the distances between these particular iron nanorods. At the highest weight fraction sample, the dipolar interactions are less, and exchange interaction, because they are close by, so there could be exchange interaction, and exchange interaction tend to decrease the corrosivity, whereas dipolar interactions tend to increase the corrosivity. So in this case, exchange interaction are more dominant, and in the low this is 0.1233, all these samples I'm talking about now, they are too far apart that dipolar interaction are better, more efficient than the exchange interaction, because in the exchange interaction, the spin needs to be nearby. So here only anisotropic properties of iron nanorods appear, and in this case both exchange interaction and dipolar interaction appear. And in the medium, which represent the 1 weight % sample, here the dipolar interactions are maximum, are more significant than the exchange interaction, and this represents 1 weight % sample corrosivity values. We do not have any theoretical model which can explain these results. So again, you have second, this is second piece of work which was published without, backing from theoretical models. There is no model which can explain these results. So I will again go back to the MH loop. The idea is, if you have a bulk sample, you have more magnetization value, fine, there is no problem, because iron content is more in the bulk sample, but the corrosivity increases till 1 weight %, and then it decreases, and this thinning or narrowing of the curve is probably because of the anisotropic nature of iron nanoparticle. So what is so important about this?
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Okay. So we could have a significance out of this work that highly corrosive and conductive polymer composites can be fabricated with very, very small amount of Fe-filled CNTs. Yeah, so the data analysis shows that this type of system in which the CNTs are encapsulated with magnetic nanoparticle, they form a fantastic system because it prevents from oxidation, and it prevents from agglomeration. Corrosivity of these samples vary non-monotonically as a function of CNT loading, where 1 weight % sample exhibits the maximum corrosivity of the order of 2.7 kilo Oersted. Here you just look at the number, 2658 Oersted. We can say that 2.7 kilo Oersted at the lowest temperature. There is a wonderful thing to share here is bulk iron particle exhibits highest value of magnetization of 220 EMU per gram, and its corrosivity is 1 Oersted, and these two data are on the room temperature measurement. So if you compare room temperature properties of bulk iron and this nanorod iron, the corrosivity here is 583, and in the bulk sample it is 1 Oersted. So this is one of the important features when somebody goes from bulk to the nano counterpart. The corrosivity changes in this manner, where the reduction in magnetization is seen from this graph. I told you 220 EMU per gram. Here it is 4 EMU per gram. So yeah, this is what I wanted to tell you from these graphs, and this is still not understood very clearly that why the corrosivity of all the samples at all the temperatures show a maxima at 1 weight percent, and below and above it decreases. Okay, so the field emission studies were carried out by us. Before that, we had to put enough understanding that why CNT sample should be considered for the field emission properties. There are few answers for it. Carbon nanotubes have very important property of being one-dimensional in nature. Second, it's a very high electrical mobility and conductivity, because the field emission, actually what is field emission? Field emission is a process in which high intense electric field is applied on a sample where the vacuum is created, and at a distance about say below 1 mm, the electrons get emitted in a quantum mechanical manner, because there is nothing, you are applying electric field of the order of 10 to the power 9 volts per meter. So the enhancement factor in the case of carbon nanotube is the most important reason for its use in the field emission studies. The very important thing is field emission occurs from a solid when you apply a electric field of the order of 10 to the power 9 volt per meter, and it is a quantum mechanical turning of electrons through a potential barrier. And the important properties one field emitter should have is the good off and off, on and off ratio, and nonlinear current voltage relationship. So let's so field emission generally is obeyed by field emission studies are in corroboration with this equation called Fowler-Nordin equation, in which the most important factor here is beta. Beta is called the enhancement factor, field enhancement factor. I will try to explain it. You are actually applying a field of say 100 volt, and due to the geometry of your field emitter, geometry and other parameters such as its diameter, its size. For example, carbon nanotube having 50 nanometer of diameter will look at this 100 volt field such that it is about 10, so it becomes 10 to the power 9 volt per nanometers. If you roughly convert such things, you will see that carbon nanotube can be considered as an ideal candidate for the field emission work. And because of this beta factor, it is highly desirable that CNTs should be used for field emission studies. But now there is a problem. One should have a vertically aligned carbon nanotube structure, otherwise it won't work. If it is in lateral position, if the orientation of CNTs are in lateral position, the beta value is not going to be improved. So this was an interesting, preparation of sample. We prepared samples of 1 weight, 5, 10, 15, 25, and 45. And what we did, we prepared these composite samples, and the thickness I told you it was about 60 micron. And when very sharp knife is used to cut this sample, on the cross section, if you can vertically align with the electric field, one can have a better and desirable field emission properties from CNTs. The problem with CNT alone is its thermal stability is okay. There is no problem with thermal stability, but its positioning within the chamber is difficult. So we chose this polymer composite route to study field emission properties, and these are the SCMs which are showing that when you have a composite sample, you cut it from a sharp knife and vertically align in the direction of electric field. There are some protrusions. These are the protrusions, and the number of protrusions increase with the increase of weight fraction of CNT within the composite. So this is a very systematic study that we tried to carry out. We prepared samples of 1 weight% and we cut it. We go to the SCM machine and see whether do we have enough protrusions or not. So these protrusions help in the field emission of the electrons from the sample. Now there are one or two more important points are there, that base of your setup should be conducting, and the electron can be injected through the bottom of the electrode, which can be thereby, by applying high electric field on the top, ejects the electron from the tip of these protrusions. So this is a very interesting curve. One can look at it. Before that, I will again go to this particular equation, Fowler-Nordin equation. I by E square. I is obviously the current, emission current. E is the applied voltage, and phi is the work function of the material. Generally, we take it as 5.0 electron volt as that of graphite, because just to study field emission, we consider that the multi-wall carbon nanotubes are equivalent to graphite. So you just try to follow this curve and you will feel it interesting that the red curve belongs to 0.01 weight fraction. That means it is 1 weight%. Sorry, 1 weight%. So 1 weight% sample provides you field emission of electrons after 5 volt per micron electric field is applied. So you keep on increasing the number of protrusions, that is blue curve, 5 weight%. Here the field emission happens at an early stage, then the red curve, which is 4 volt per micron. Very nice. We are improving with the field emission properties with respect to the composite composite and filler loading. So as you go to 10 weight% sample, the green curve, or maybe green curve shows turn on voltage at a very turn on voltage is about 3 volt per micrometer, and thereafter the black curve, and black curve is in the last. So at 15 weight%, you have the best field emission from the point of view of applied electric field. It is still confusing that 15 weight% sample provides you the lowest value of turn on field and threshold field rather than 25 and 45 weight% sample. Now again, there is a problem that we were thinking that if we keep on increasing the amount of CNTs within a composite, the protrusions are going to be increased, obviously, and when protrusions are increased, the emission of current should be more in the case of 45 weight% sample, because there are a number of large number of protrusions available in the case of 45 weight% sample, which can be seen from the SCM images. So it is now a big problem that why there is again a non-monotonic behavior of field emission properties in the case of composite samples. Again, we don't have exact theoretical model for it, but the point which we speculated with for the explanation of this work. At the lowest values 1, 5, 10, there are less number of productions, so you have very high turn-on field, and currents are almost same in all the cases. Current densities are almost same, but the turn-on and threshold voltages are lowest for the case of 15 weight% sample. So what we speculating is the following. At the highest loading, 45% of loading and 25% of loading, there are enough protrusions which screens out the emission of electrons. For example, here you have large number of protrusions. Now electric field is applied here. Because of the screening effect which cause the shorting or shunting of the currents from these particular tips, creates screening effect, due to which the voltage has to be more for the production or emission of electrons, while in the case of 15 weight% sample, you get the highest lowest, 15 weight% sample exhibits the lowest turn-on field, lowest threshold field, and almost the same current density from the emitted electrons. So this was further seen as a, we need to find out if this data really follows the Fowler-Nordin equation or not. So there has to be 1 upon E, and the equation which we have already seen. The straight line curve shows that the field emission in this composite follows Fowler-Nordin equation. And Fowler-Nordin equation is right from 1930s or so, has been explaining the field emission properties of various materials. Here one can compare the different parameters, and I would like you to just look at the central horizontal line, that 0.158% sample gives rise to the turn-on voltage to 1.28 volt per micron, and threshold voltage is 1. These two are almost the same thing. I just explained the difference between these two. Turn-on, that means where the current starts more increasing, and the other value that is called threshold at a particular value. For example, at 5 or 10 milliamp per centimeter square, that particular voltage is called threshold voltage. And interestingly enough, the beta value, which I already told, beta value is called the field enhancement factor, and it is found to be the highest for this particular sample, 6494. So beta is more in the case of 15 weight% sample, which probably can explain the result, but still theoretical models such as which can give us the optimized number of protrusions that can give rise to the highest field emission current is missing. So theoretically we are not able to explain this, but experimentally it is quite clear that because beta is more, beta means field enhancement factor, the applied field becomes locally enhanced electric field. And there is one more important factor, that is F value. It is even higher than the beta factor. So field emission from composite made up of CNTs can be a one route for desirable field emission characteristics. So let me just take the important comment here. It is J versus E data shows that 100 milliamp per centimeter square can be obtained with an application of 2.2 volt per micron. And because at this particular value of weight fraction, the protrusions are not screened by the presence of other protrusions, this is the optimized number which we get in the case of 15 weight percent sample. But this work needs to be verified by other groups as well, and the theoretical modeling should be done for the validation of this work. So I reached to the summary of this particular presentation. First is the multi-wall carbon nanotube can be grown with very high quality and some sort of alignment as well, and highest aspect ratio by an inexpensive one-step technique. For example, I told you there are two ways to go for the production of CNTs. One, first you grow a catalyst on a substrate and then insert the substrate into reaction chamber of a furnace where the carbon sources are required. That is done. But here it is one-step technique because you have toluene plus ferrocene mixture within the reactor, and these two are thermally decomposed to give rise to the production of CNT, because within the reactor ferrocene provides iron nanoparticle and toluene provides the essential carbon, and the CNTs are produced in a very aligned manner with high aspect ratio, very less amount of amorphous carbon. Second, once you have seen the sample is good, the conductivity shows metallic transport in the CNT sample. The same CNTs, once you incorporate with the polymer to make percolation threshold sample, at the percolation threshold also you will get a weak temperature dependence if the aspect ratio of CNTs are high, if the distribution is homogeneous, and the material processing is done in a better manner. So this work that the second point, third point represents, it is very interesting in the composite industry because one can achieve the finite conductivity at room temperature, but in order to have a sustained nanoscale network of CNTs within the composite is a challenge, and we can achieve only by using simple ultrasonication technique. And next point talks about the magnetic field induced delocalization of carriers when you have sufficiently large amount of CNTs incorporated in composite, that is 15 weight percent. Magnetic response which was studied shows a non-monotonic variation of corrosivity, and it shows the maximum at 1 weight percent. This particular work needs to be either verified or validated by some theoretical modeling, which we couldn't do so far. And the last is about the field emission properties at an intermediate level of filler loading. We got the highest current with lowest threshold voltages. So I think I should now acknowledge my collaborators. Professor Raghu Menon, he was the supervisor for me in the PhD program at ISC. Dr. Prasad, he was co-supervisor. Dr. John Galibert, he just met me in a conference and offered that we can do some work. And the work that published in Carbon was his own efforts. He carried out the experiments and we analyzed collaboratively. Professor Ouyang, New Singapore, Professor Kim, South Korea, Other three are my, institute mates, Samira, Dr. Mitesh, and Sangeet. They are my co-author in few of my papers. So I would thank you all for listening to me, and I would be happy to give answers to the query because we have a lot of time left, probably 30 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Thank you very much. It's really an interacting session and nice talk with you. Now I formally invite the questions from the audience. Audience, if you want to interact with Dr. Ravi, he's available. Dr. Ravi, in the meantime, the audience asked you, I wanted to know that is it possible that we can use these multi-carbon nanotubes for some caloric type of purpose, caloric materials? I think you all know that.
Actually, this has been done already. Caloric, that means temperature sensors. People have prepared low temperature sensors with the help of CNTs actually, because as we know that temperature can be measured by measuring the resistance. If the resistance of a particular temperature reaches to certain value, the corresponding temperature values can be known. So temperature sensors are made by CNTs, and these have come under the calorimetric studies of CNTs.
Yeah, actually, we are working in the magnetocaloric as well as electrocaloric materials. We have intentions that we want to replace the so-called CFC gases in the refrigerants. So I just wanted to know that if it's possible that we could anyhow replace these gases instead of the formal materials, instead of that we use the CNTs.
Actually, one should know first the thermal stability of CNT is almost 550 degrees C. That means below 550 C, you can apply these materials for making devices for calorimetry. But as you reach this temperature, they start burning, and you cannot go more than 550 degrees C with these multi-wall carbon nanotubes.
Fine. Audience, if they want to discuss with Dr. Ravi, they either may write their queries in the chat box, or do you have any query? There is a query regarding CNT synthesis. Can we have alternate method?
There are a large number of methods with which you can prepare carbon nanotubes. First is the arc discharge. I told you, you need to have very high degree of vacuum first, then you introduce argon gas. Two graphitic rods are required, and the high amount of current needs to be flown through it, which can cause the production of single wall carbon nanotubes. Similarly, laser ablation can be used, in which graphite is used as a source. A very high intense beam of laser is incident on the graphite, and desired substrates are placed nearby where carbon nanotube gets deposited.
There is a question from Srinivasan, Dr. L. Srinivasan. He's asking that what about the role of PS in the composite, whether it's affecting the conductivity, any interference in magnetic properties.
Okay. Polystyrene represents PS. PS represents the polystyrene polymer. We chose it because its chemical structure is very interesting. It is having a benzene ring structure in it. You have toluene, it has a benzene ring structure in it, and obviously carbon nanotube is having a honeycomb lattice. So without using any surfactant, if you want to make a composite sample with CNT, you must have pi-pi interaction between the chemicals that you use. So pi-pi interaction between these three, CNT, polystyrene, and toluene, give rise to a very homogeneous dispersion of CNTs within the composite. The PS, the job of PS is to just hold the CNT together, and at a very low weight fraction you can have a freestanding film which is conductive, which is having magnetic properties. So you have multifunctional composite with you if you use FeCNTs in the production of composites with polymer, PMMA, EVA. You can use any polymer actually. There are people have used number of polymers. We chose polystyrene because of its very chemical nature that allows us pi stacking or interaction between the toluene and CNT, which allows without using any surfactant, one can make the composite samples easily just by sonicating it.
Dr. Bhatia, there is another question from Dr. Sandeep. Can we form adhesive and uniform films of graphene on alumina and single crystals?
Graphene is a very interesting material. There was a report previously, first report actually, sorry. You take a copper foil, you place PMMA solution on it, you just use some 1000 degrees C and place it in a furnace, and you can have graphene on the top of copper foil. So graphene, single layer graphene is a challenge, and it is very difficult to handle this sample in the first place. So you must have number of facilities with you if you really want to go for graphene research. South Korea, specifically the university where I worked, Sungkyun Kwan University at South Korea, they have very high level of expertise in this field.
Is there any specific method he's asking us? Or can you give the name of any technique he wants to know, and so that he person could use it? Dr. Sandeep wants to use the technique.
Graphene fabrication can be done using copper foil in a CVD chamber. In this case, you need to provide the amount of carbon source into the chamber in a very controlled manner. It cannot be produced. If you just put, toluene is a carbon source, but it won't give rise to the production of CNT, graphene, because it gets thermally decomposed and give rise to the production of iron carbide particle, carbon particle, and few carbon fibers also.
So there is the same question that can you explore the properties of CNT on Fe iron?
On
Iron. Actually, I think I invite Dr. Shivam to ask his question by himself. Whether Shivam Shukla is there? Other, it would be better that you interact with the expert by yourself. Instead, I read out your questions. I may be not the right person that conveying your questions correctly.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
You are audible, please. Put up your question.
Sir, for the polymethyl methacrylate, the material shows the same peculiar behavior at the weight percentage at 30%, and also the 20 weight percentage. Why this happened?
I understand your question as if you said
So
that
let me tell you that, sir, you said 0.4 weight percentage. The polystyrene, that is polymethyl methacrylate, shows metallic behavior, but when it is 20 weight percentage and 30 weight percentage, they show the same behavior. Why, sir, the case of this?
I think I got your question that Kim et al., who published a paper in PRB 2006, I took his data to explain you the sample that they have examined were, having certain problems. It could be many problems. First problem, their sample might be having amorphous carbon content within their sample, and they did not remove this by doing some calcination or thermal, so presence of carbon particle in the CNT sample. Second, their aspect ratio can be very small. They have actually written this part in their paper that the length of their CNTs were about 10 microns. While in our case, we had length scales of carbon nanotube of the order of 300 microns. So where the 10 micron and 300 micron. So these two important things are there. And third is processing of composite. The processing of composite means, do we have the highest level of degree of dispersion of CNT within the composite or not? If you have not, that means that composite will have conductivity values different in various areas. For example, where they are agglomerated, there are somewhere places where there is no CNTs. So these 3 points should be taken into account while preparing or fabricating a composite sample with any filler. First, the filler must be having the highest quality. Highest quality means their defect density should be very less. That can be seen through Raman spectroscopy. If your defect peak is very high, that means you should try to get a better sample. And second thing is aspect ratio. Aspect ratio means the length to dia. You can explain aspect ratio in many manners. So aspect ratio, I am talking about aspect ratio in terms of high length. And third is better processing by using ultrasonication and assuring that the distribution has become homogeneous.
Hello. Thank you, sir. Thank you. One more.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
One more question, sir.
Yes, sir. My question is, sir, actually, I want to know here you are exploring the magnetic property of CNT or Fe. If you are exploring the magnetic property of CNT, so why you have used Fe? Means what is role of Fe in this samples?
See, what we did, we had a carbon nanotube sample having iron nanoparticle embedded within it. And if we use it for electromagnetic shielding, we need to make composite sample. And electromagnetic shielding application will be very, interesting in the case you have magnetic particle within composite and you have electrical properties incorporated in the composite. So the efficiency of the electromagnetic shielding with this particular composite will be appreciable, very high. So we just observed the samples, and the sample. My supervisor once told me that you must ask a question that should be correct in all nature. If you ask a wrong question, you cannot reach the correct answer. One should try to ask a correct question and you will get the correct answer. With this quote, I remember when we were doing this work, that iron nanoparticle is encapsulated in CNT. CNT has its own intrinsic electrical properties. So both these properties will be imparted to the composite, and we are in a process to continue the studying the electromagnetic shielding effect of this material, and I guess it will be very nice.
There is Dr. Abu Hussain. I invite Dr. Abu Hussain to discuss with the expert. There's a question that can be made.
Sir, yeah.
You put your
Can we make a composite of carbon nanotube with conducting polymers?
Yes, people have made it. Actually, there is a 1995. There are PRB papers by Raghu Menon. He worked on conducting polymers PMMA plus PANI, polyaniline, and they have studied very nicely that percolation threshold and its effect as well as the temperature dependent conductivity, temperature dependent magnetoresistance. Very nicely, these work have been done, you know, in 1990s. Very large amount of literature is available in this case, in this field.
Is there any another question?
Sir, can I ask question?
Ajit Joshi. Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, Ajit Joshi here. Sir, my question regarding you have mentioned the high temperature. So, some inner atmosphere.
Your voice is not audible.
Can you repair the low temperature with without any condition? Am I audible?
Dr. Joshi, you are not clearly audible.
Am I audible? Because temperature as well as inner condition will be have to depend on the variation for CNT. Either you want to multi nanotube or you want to high density of that. So that's why my specific question for the regarding temperature versus inner condition. It is important for that, for morphology, other properties like that.
I understood your question in following manner, that you want to say, can we have a control over the parameters of CNT such as multi-wall or single wall in a particular synthesis setup? This is a very
The number of morphology depending on the temperatures.
Obviously.
So, can we have, because we are preparing organic compound, so sometimes if you are going to higher temperature, if you want to make a drug delivery system, but the compound is going to polymerize or decompose. So that is some critical challenge asked to us.
Still, there are few challenges left in the synthesis part of CNT. First is, can we specifically grow CNTs with desirable chirality? Chirality, can you control the chirality of CNT? Probably so far not. Second important question or challenge in this field is, can we have exact multi-wall carbon nanotube fabrication or single-wall carbon nanotube fabrication with absolute control over its diameter or length? So far, as long as you keep on, supplying the carbon source or the catalyst within the chamber, reaction chamber, CNT is going to be produced, but we cannot control specifically its diameter or length so far. So these 2-3 challenges are still left in the synthesis research of carbon nanotubes.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Is there any questions from the audience side? If no questions, our next speaker, Dr. Ashish Panda from National Metallurgical Laboratory, he has joined the session. So in the last, let me say thanks to Dr. Ravi Bhatia. Thank you, sir, thank you for sparing your valuable time and interacting with the audience who are gathered here. I think Dr. Joshi still have some question. Yes, sir. If you have any question, please.
No, sir. Just I clapping them.
Dr. Joshi, you are not clearly audible. Our guest could not hear you.
Sir, due to here week of the internet connection, so now my question is over.
Okay.
Yeah, I got his question actually. He was talking about inert gas and low temperature. Yeah. See, inert gas flow is required when both ends of your reaction tubes are open. What we did, we closed the one end of the tube so that we need not have any flow of inert gas. And the on the other end, we connected a bladder. So the reaction gases are collected within the bladder. There is no flow of the gas, just there is something happening with the temperature and the thermal decomposition of the precursors used. So in 1996, chemical physics lecturer Professor C.N.R. Rao actually wrote all these things about metallocene, that ferrocene, niclocene, and cobaltocene itself it can be used for production of CNT without any other carbon source. That means the ferrocene itself has the carbon part and the iron part both.
So thank you, Dr. Ravi. Thank you very much for.
I feel honored, sir. Thank you very much for inviting me for this lecture.
It's really an interacting session, sir. It's really nice to have you, to listen to you and have an interaction with you. Yeah, so now we have Dr. Ashish Kumar Panda with us. So I invite Sumandeep Kaur for the formal introduction of the Panda. Sumandeep Kaur.